Welcome, my name is Mike Pops, and I'm the head of mid-corporate treasury management here at Wells Fargo Commercial Banking. My team is responsible for managing global liquidity and payments across the United States and overseas. And I'm honored to be here today with Dave Westergaard from Riddles. Riddles is a family-owned since 1959 jeweler manufacturer based out of beautiful Rapid City, South Dakota. Thanks for being with us today, Dave.
Mike, thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Dave, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself and your role at Riddles?
I'm the Executive Vice President and CFO of Riddles Group. We are, as you mentioned, a jewelry company headquartered in Rapid City. We have 70 stores throughout the Midwest of the U.S. With our jewelry manufacturing in Rapid City, we distribute through our own retail stores, as well as a number of other retailers, from small sole proprietorships to large national discounters throughout the United States.
Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Wells Fargo.
Our relationship is deep and it's broad. We work with the commercial banking team on lines of credit, whether it be our operating side of our business or our real estate side. We also work with Wells Fargo in a number of other ancillary areas from the standpoint of the private label credit cards, the major credit card processing, as well as the treasury management team for all of the treasury management functions, including different payment options for our customers.
So Dave, I know we're here to talk about your automation journey at Riddles and the steps that you took to get to where you're at today. So why don't you back us up a little bit and tell us about how this journey started, how you discovered the opportunity within the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as any organization has to look at different efficiencies and effectiveness within the organization, as we continue to grow, as we continue to diversify, I was tasked with looking at a number of our back office functions. And one of those that really came to light was our accounts payable function. It was a very time-consuming, labor-intensive process from the standpoint of inputting invoices to reconciling those invoices to paying those invoices on time, making sure that we're keeping our vendors happy by processing the payment in a form that they want to receive.
So I know as part of that, it's important to find partners that can be very additive to helping you achieve your goals. So how did you go about selecting the critical partners that help you along your automation journey?
Well, we looked at a number of other players in the market that really specialize in the payable space, and Wells Fargo continued in its leadership role of bringing solutions to us that really create that effective process really on our back office. They spent time with the team to make sure that they understood the full picture before they made the recommendation on this is a solution we feel would meet the needs of what you're looking for within your organization.
I know that your organization has grown significantly since the pandemic, since 2020, and since you embarked on this mission, both store footprint and through staffing. So talk a little bit about what kind of scalability this type of solution has provided you now that you've automated the payables path.
Really, Mike, we're able to do substantially more in terms of paying more vendors, more volume of payables with virtually the same size staff as what we were at prior to this payment manager process.
And I know you're not a one-man operation, Dave, so you have to get the people around you motivated and influenced to make the change. And as I talk to customers, that sometimes is one of the bigger challenges on the onset of a project. So how did you motivate and influence your team to go down this path with you?
You know, really, my leadership style is to really incorporate the team approach, and certainly as CFO, you know, my job is to certainly create a vision and to motivate. But I would be remiss to think that I know everything about every one of our processes. So to get the team involved from the get-go was probably one of the most crucial points. Besides making the decision, one of the most crucial points to move forward with this process. And for us, I believe it creates a little more ownership of the process. The team feels a little bit more involved. They understand that their opinions matter, and they're the ones that are deep in the weeds every single day. They understand where those challenges are that can be addressed with a better solution.
Absolutely. The other common thing I hear is the fear of change. So not just the fear, but the acknowledgement that there's going to be challenges as you change, and that disrupts business.
No question.
And so talk to us a little bit about the challenges that Riddles face and how did you guys overcome those?
You know, the fear of change is a very legitimate concern, and we certainly we're not immune to that. And but through communication, to and taking the time necessary from the Wells Fargo side to understand what our needs were, we began to work through those challenges time and time again. And the process, candidly, Mike, wasn't without its roadblocks. There were roadblocks at the beginning. There were roadblocks in the midst of the process. There were roadblocks on the eve of implementation. The Wells Fargo data analytics team just hit a home run in coming up with a solution to streamline that data coming out and being put into Payment Manager to really, again, save a substantial amount of labor time for our team. Probably 2 weeks of data entry was saved through a 15-second import.
That's excellent. Tell us a little bit about the outcome of this entire process, how that's impacting your business today, and how Wells Fargo played a role in that.
Absolutely. So as we talked about the labor process that we had in play before, candidly, and we do 2 of these a month. The historical process of pushing out an accounts payable was about a 24-hour process amongst different tasks and responsibilities and people to push out an accounts payable run. The process was very, very time intensive, and the result of Payment Manager working through that process, it went from 24 hours twice a month, so a total of 48 hours, down to candidly 15 to 20 minutes from start to finish of pushing out a large payables run. All right, and because of the automation, because of the process that is involved with Payment Manager, it absolutely delivered time back to our accounting team, and beyond that time savings, which is substantial, Mike. The Wells Fargo team went through a very in-depth onboarding process with all of our vendors, from our expense vendors to our inventory vendors, and they came up with the most effective and efficient way that they wanted to be paid. And first and foremost, they encouraged those customers to take a P card or our corporate credit card as a form of payment. Next, they would look to ACH as the second solution. And last resort, if they still want to be paid through a check, we could accommodate that. But through the process, not only was there the labor savings, but we started to pay our vendors in a much more effective way. Beyond that, we're able to increase our spend on our P card program, which resulted in some savings for us as a company also.
Of course. Excellent. What do you value most about your relationship with Wells Fargo, and what are you looking forward to in the future?
Yeah, Mike, I think the biggest thing I value the most is the level of communication. And we've been working with Wells Fargo, for decades. And one thing that has stayed so consistent is the high level of communication. It's not a monologue. It is truly a dialogue of communication with our relationship management team, with our team on our major credit cards, our team within Treasury. And with that, they're able to make recommendations to us, solutions that really can help improve our business. They understand our business in such a way that they are really targeted solutions that truly will deliver results to us.
Knowing that you came from a very manual process, which was very ripe for fraud and fraudulent activity, what has this done to change the fraud landscape for the organization and help better protect you?
It's been an absolute game changer, Mike. The fear that I had so consistently when we were sending out hundreds of thousands of checks was whose hands are they going to get into that we don't want them to get into? And now with the built-in fraud protections, with the credit card, the whole fraud filter process, the perfect receivables process with Wells Fargo, make sure that we're paying our vendors exactly what they should be paid, on time, and done in a very efficient and effective way, and avoiding any type of potential fraud issues.
Great. So with all that said, what advice would you give your peers that may be watching this today?
I think the biggest thing I would encourage my peers is to not be afraid to get your team involved from the beginning. Your team understands their day-to-day processes, and as CFO, certainly your role is to continue to cast a vision, to continue to monitor the process and hold the process accountable. But get your team involved from the beginning. Allow them to have that connection. It develops ownership amongst that team.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, Dave. I appreciate the relationship you have with Wells Fargo. We certainly feel like a part of the Riddles team as well. Thank you for joining us here today.